What's up, YouTube? It's Unruly coming to you with my Black Panther review. I'm going to try to keep this short, keep it quick, but this is a review and a discussion, and I'll have a spoiler section towards the end. But what can I say? The movie was fantastic. It's probably my top 3 Marvel movies of all time. I think my favorite is still Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Guardians of the Galaxy was great. There was just a few things in this movie that kept it from being like just way high up there. There were some things that I'm like, man, if they just would have done this, it could have been so much better. But I want to talk about everybody in this film, because everybody in this film knocked it out of the park. Every character in this movie was fantastic. I mean, Michael B. Jordan was my favorite thing about this film. His portrayal of Killmonger was amazing, and this is something that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been missing. I mean, everyone loves Loki. Loki's fantastic. Loki's good. And maybe because this movie, I get where he was coming from. I get his anger. I get why he is doing why he's doing. Be it he's doing it the wrong way and being a pretty bad person the way he's doing it. But you're like, damn. The struggle. and Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther was also an amazing portrayal. He had to, it was funny. It just reminded me a lot of one of my favorite movies of all time, Coming to America. Where he's Akeem and he's a prince, and then later on he learns to kind of let it flow. I mean, it does change over time, and I think his portrayal was fantastic. He knocked it out of the park. Everybody in this film knocked it out of the park. That's one thing I can say. There was no weak link. Everybody was amazing in this. Andy Serkis as Ulysses Claw was awesome. So charismatic as a villain. Such a good villain. Such a guy who enjoys being a shithead. He enjoys being a bad guy, and it shows, and it was also done. And I'd love to have seen more of Claw in this movie, as well as Killmonger. And I'm like, man, give us some more Black Panther. Give those characters more moments to shine, because they were phenomenal. And when those villains were on screen, it just popped. It was fantastic. And then we had Lupita. We had his love interest was fantastic. The geeky sidekick sister, who was the techie person, was done so well. This film had so much heart. You could really tell. It felt like a real family was out there making this film. And when you're watching it, it does really feel like a family of love and passion and the whole thing of Wakanda, of being tradition, and it was phenomenal. It was great. And there's other movies like, yeah, this is family, like Fast and Furious. I'm like, I don't believe for a minute any of those guys are family. Like, yeah, this is my family. But this movie, you're like, man, it really carries across. The cinematography is beautiful. Just so much. This movie is good, but there's a couple of things that do throw me off. There's a fight scene, and it is done a lot in the dark and done in this area, and it's a pivotal fight scene in the movie. And I'm wishing, man, you have Wakanda, this beautiful country and everything. I really wish, there's so much passion and anger in this fight scene. I really wish it was out in the open. I really wish we could see more of it. I really wish you can get some closer and a little bit better. A little bit like, and even what we saw was cool, but it was kind of dark. I really wanted to see more of this fight, and I think that's one of my just small little gripes about this film, and along with just wanting to see more of these villains in it, because they were great, because we don't get a lot of great villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the story, and I think the whole moral of the story comes from a quote from the film that said, "It's hard for a good man to be king." And that's what this whole movie is about. And it is phenomenal, because we have T'Challa, who wants to be a good man and a king, and but it's a great movie. I really want to see it again. like I said, there was a couple of small issues that I had with it that kept it from being like, yo, this is number one. But it is right there. And then one thing that this movie does really well is the comedy. The comedy in this movie was done fantastic. It wasn't like, my problem is that I remember Thor 3, because the first two were just kind of didn't have too much comedy. They're very forgettable villains. I don't even remember who the villain for Thor 2 was. Thor 1 was Loki, great villain, a lot, but I could really feel Michael B. Jordan's plight. I could feel Killmonger's plight in this film, and it was, man, I can't wait to talk about it in spoilers. And it was, yeah, it's that comedy was just thrown in there. It's like, let's make Thor Guardians of the Galaxy, and this comedy was done right. It felt like, there's situations where these family members or these people are, there's comedy, and it's like, man, it makes you smile, because it's like, wow, that really could be the brother and sister right there, and it puts a legit, besides you laughing, it is also heartwarming as well. So the movie is fantastic. I really want to get into spoilers of why I really did enjoy this movie, so I'm going to go ahead and put this up right here. Woo, woo, here comes Kenny's special effects. Woo, 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 woo. Spoilers, special effects. I spare no expense. All right, guys. But when you see this up there, it means spoilers. But and then I'm gonna go back to what my problem was with the fight scene at the end. It was because these characters, Killmonger was so impassioned, and it was his life goal since he was a child to get back to Wakanda, to do this moment, and it was kind of all in the dark. And I'm like, man, this needs to be out in the world, out where people can see it and you can hear them and see their faces. And I think there should have been something else. It should have been something where they didn't have to worry about the suits. But that really kind of pulled me away, because it was dark, and on the whole time, when you're in a good movie and you forget things, and you're not in the theater anymore, you're there. And I just remember that part, like, oh man, I wish, why is this filmed so much in the dark? They're wearing both dark suits. Please, because all the other fight scenes were out in the open and everything like that. And so that kind of pulled me away. But I'm going to go back to the story, the bottom line story of Black Panther's father, and the line, it's hard for a good man to be a good king, or it's hard for a good man to be king. And he makes the ultimate decision that creates Killmonger, and it is, man, I really fell in love with his brother's story. He sends his brother out in this mission out into the world, and it's like, hey, we need to capture Claw. And his brother becomes almost, not, I wouldn't say radicalized, but he's been living in Wakanda, and now he goes out into the United States, and he sees his people. He sees the African American people out there suffering, and it is hard for him, because he's lived in the Wakanda, and Wakanda is such this amazing place that is sheltered from the world, and he makes that choice, and the brothers are right there, and it's just like, man, I can't do this. My people out here suffering. And then the king is like, I need to protect Wakanda. I need to protect our peoples. I don't think this world is ready for our technology and imagine, and it is a tough choice. And that has always been, for me, because I've never been too really in depth in the Black Panther. I've read some of the comics, like with him and Storm, but I've never really gotten the whole Wakandan culture. And like, man, like, because that's what that made me think too. It's like, where were they? They just stood aside when all these atrocities were happening, all these things were going on. They just stood aside, and then you could see, yeah. And this film answers that question. It answers that question, and it makes you really think about it. And that's what's so great about this film. You're like, man, Wakanda was just sitting here while the rest of the world was suffering, and that's been, out of all the ancestors of the Black Panthers, that has been their gift and their curse. And I was like, damn. And that's why I really fell in line with his brother. And it was a beautiful story. We only get a little bit of it, but he fell in love with a woman in the United States, and then wanted to help his people, and he had a son, and then then the king kills his own brother and leaves the son in the United States, and that was a huge bad choice, and which ends up creating Killmonger. And you could see why he became the man he is. He that line of, imagine a kid from Oakland believing in fairy tales, man, hit me. It hit me right in the heart, because that was his father. His father's like, look, he told him, and that's probably my favorite thing about this whole movie. My favorite part of this whole movie is, the Black Panther got to go on his spiritual quest and talk to his father and see his ancestors back there as Panthers. And I'm like, man, that is beautiful. But then when Killmonger gets to do the same thing and gets to see his father and see him again, in that scene, man, that was a hard scene. It hit me right in the feels, man. It was tough. And how come you didn't cry for me? And it was, oh man, that scene is probably my favorite scene in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was done because it does something too. It gives a voice and it gives a heart to the villain, and he was doing it all wrong. And then it was a bold move by Disney, because in Marvel, it's like, I want to protect my people, and they're letting people know that, they're struggling out there. We need to stop this. And he's actually the real Black Panther. And like, in my opinion, like, not like saying but yeah, and it was such a dude. And then the line is at the end of the movie, he's like, bury me at sea, where so I could be with my ancestors who were wise enough to know that death was better than captivity. And I was like, damn, he had to be raw to the very end. He kept it gangster to the very end. I'm like, no, warmonger, go to the Wakanda Helpness Center, get better. I love you. You could be healed. You can be healed. Your heart can be healed. Give him a hug. But it was raw, man. This film was raw, and I think that's why he's my favorite villain. It gave him that voice. It gave him that heart. He got to do the ritual of Wakanda and see his father again, and it was such a powerful scene in the movie, and you don't get a lot of those powerful scenes. And I think Guardians 2 had a little bit of that, when you realize his father was the Mohawk guy. But other than that, the movie was great. Everyone in this film killed it. There was very little for me to nitpick, and I think just that thing that, if was done right, that last fight scene was done awesome, and it was a little bit more passion in there, and it would easily be my favorite Marvel movie of all time. It's so close up there, and I think maybe it's a small thing to nitpick, but I really wanted to see those two characters, maybe because I just love Killmonger as a villain, and dude, he's just the swag, the way he man crush. But other than that, that's been my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we have a Video Games review. This was just kind of a way for me to talk. And my reviews aren't professional by any way. It's just kind of the way I think and talk and my thoughts of the movie and everything like that. So I'm no Jeremy Jahns or Chris Stuckman. Those guys are godlike. I like watching their reviews all the time. They're very well done. This is just, hey, Kenny, I just saw this movie. I like it. Want to hear me talk about it for a while? Because I'm not that good of a talker. But yeah, and there's a Video Games review. They're long, but this is the discussions that we have when we go out to the movies, and we do this. We sit there and we just talk about the movies for like an hour or 2 hours, and we're just like, oh, hey, you got to go now. And we just said, you know what, why don't we film it? So we film it, and we invite you to our discussion. So this is my discussion for Black Panther. There's a Video Games discussion. And so, man, I really agree with Steve. I really agree with Max. I really agree with Simmons. And then we already have Mike from Easy Allies join us as well. But thank you guys. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, please. It would help me. And make sure to check out the Video Games one for more analysis from all of the dudes. But all right, guys. Thanks for watching. Peace. Peace. Peace.